It's time to go cray-cray for Tay-Tay. Now, before you switch off, if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, this episode of the Creative Coach podcast is about her work ethic. Hi, I'm Wade Kingsley, and thank you for joining me for the Creative Coach podcast. Each week, I try and give you a little dose of inspo to go, a piece of inspiration, something you can learn from, something to inspire and motivate your own creative project or your own work. I make a living as a creative coach, and I help people unlock their creative potential. I do it through this podcast. I do it through coaching sessions one-to-one and also run team workshops for your team. So if you want to get in touch with me, I'll have my details at the end of this episode. Okay, the big buzz, of course, is Taylor Swift's new album is out. And as a Swiftie myself, recently converted, I'll admit, I'm absolutely obsessed with everything that Taylor does. But today I want to talk to you about a particular aspect of her creativity, and it's her work ethic. She is absolutely famous for working bloody hard. And the thing we love about Taylor is obviously the result of that work is fantastic music. Now, it hasn't always been that way. Taylor has learnt her craft and improved her creativity as the years have gone by. And today we're going to talk about what makes her quite so special. Why is she different to any of the other very talented musicians and performers out there? So it's probably worth knowing a little bit of backstory, and apologies if you're in the Swiftie zone and you already know this, but I think just to set this topic up, it's worth just going back over a couple of key details. So what we do know about Taylor, of course, is that she was born in 1989, and by the time she was even in primary school, in early schooling, she knew she wanted to be a star. Now, at that stage, she was performing and dancing, but she took a particular shine to country music. And she also traveled regularly to New York for vocal lessons and acting lessons as well. Her early love for country music was influenced by some great artists like Shania Twain and Patsy Cline and Leanne Rimes, and also the Dixie Chicks. And I think the thing that probably turned the corner for her, as been reported, is she watched a documentary about Faith Hill, the country singer. And determined to pursue a country music career, she actually wanted to move to Nashville. Now, her parents were very supportive. Her dad was an investment banker, and he moved his job to the Nashville office. Her mum was very dedicated to her. So at age 11, there's Taylor and her mum visiting record labels up and down the street there in Nashville. And what's really interesting about her early work is she was initially rejected. She was told she was too young. She was told she didn't have the life experience to sing country music. And she didn't take no for an answer. Neither did her mum. And they spent a lot of time helping produce her music. She would work relentlessly from the start. And it wasn't just about the actual writing of her songs or the recording of her songs, the marketing and promotion, the selling of her music. She was very much involved in that from an early age, as she still very much is today through her company 13 Management. So she spends a lot of time doing this, Taylor. She's actually pounding the pavement, trying to make sure that she doesn't take no for an answer. She also decides to then pair up with a songwriting partner called Liz Rose. And her and Liz had a long relationship, or still have a long relationship around songwriting. And they began meeting for 2-hour sessions every Tuesday after school. And what they would do in that is they would write songs. Now, Liz Rose is quoted as saying those sessions are some of the easiest she's ever done, because basically what Taylor would do was write about what happened in school that day. And she had a really clear vision early on of what she was trying to say. And really what Liz's job in that exercise was to be her coach, to help her get her story out. And so Liz sort of says she was more of the editor than the co-songwriter. So in early days, Taylor's first single in 2006 was called Tim McGraw, an ode to country singer-songwriter Tim McGraw. Now, what she did again in terms of getting her music out is both Taylor and her mum helped promote that song by sending and packaging all these CDs to country radio stations all across the US. Now, they would do it on the floor in their home at night. They absolutely would work their guts out to get this song heard by as many people as possible. And that's an interesting point actually about luck and creativity. Sometimes you might have a brilliant idea. It could be a great idea for a business. It could be a great idea for a play or a song or whatever. But really, the more persistent you are, the more luck you get. And that's one of those old-fashioned sayings too, the harder you work, the luckier you get. But that's absolutely true. There's plenty of people who are great creators, who've got great ideas, but don't work hard enough to get their ideas out in the world and sit and wait for that magic moment where someone taps them on the shoulder and says, oh, you're amazing. Can we support you? Can we buy your products? The reality is it doesn't work like that. We'd love to think that's the story that happens, but that's actually a little bit of a fairy tale. Just to quote a Taylor Swift song there. What you really have to remember is if you're an artist or you're pursuing any kind of creative work in any format, you actually have to remember the harder part is often the selling of that creative work. Now, take this podcast for me, for instance. Now, I've done creative coaching for over 2 decades, but I still have to sell what I do. I still have to sell the fact that I am helping people unlock their creative potential. So I have to go to work. I can't just sit back and think, oh, well, hopefully people know who I am by now, and hopefully I've got enough regular clients that they come back and want more coaching sessions. I have to work hard every single day. And I work out my creativity, but I also work on the selling of my creativity. So I think with Taylor's new album coming out, The Tortured Poets Department, hopefully you've had a chance to have a listen. It's a good chance to reflect particularly on how busy Taylor's life is now. Of course, she's got a huge network of support in her business, but she's probably busier than ever. Yet, while she's been touring the Eras Tour over the last 18 months, 2 years across the US, Asia, and about to go to Europe, she's still found time to write and record a whole other album. That's not to mention that since 2018, she's actually had 3 other albums out. She started in 2018 with Lover and then had Folklore and Evermore, which was one of her COVID projects. So here is someone that just does not stop. And I would say that that's the absolute lesson for any creator listening to this. No matter what you're creating, you have to be relentless. If you have a vision, you have to pursue it. If you have a product or an idea or something to sell, you have to remember that selling it is equally as critical as creating it. And you have to make sure that you are absolutely confident that you have the right idea for the right reason and that you have to just find the audience for it. And even if you get rejected out of hand, as Taylor was in the first kind of few years of her life, even though she was really young, it's the persistence that wins out. And you'll find a really persistent person behind the mask of a great creator. They don't give up on their vision. They don't give up on what they believe is their calling. And no matter what work you're doing in the creative sphere, if you really focus and work hard, the hard work will pay you back. You just have to be patient and you just have to be persistent. Hopefully, that gave you a little bit of inspo to go today. Taylor is just one of those amazing phenomenons that, you know, I got into Taylor through my daughter, who is a fan of hers. I went along to the Eras Tour. I bought the merch and I love her. I think she's fantastic, but I also love her for her work ethic. So take that in mind as you go about your week. Thanks for joining me on the Creative Coach podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. And next week, we're going to have a look at a very popular animated children's series, which is made right here in Australia. And we're going to have a look at the story behind how that started. If you'd like to get in touch, you can email me, wade@thecreativecoach.com, or you can hit me up on the socials. Just look for The Creative Coach or Wade Kingsley, and I'll happily answer your messages. Until next week, remember, this is true. You are creative. So say it. I am creative.